You're listening to Stu's Wrestling Podcast, established 2019. Direct from the North Wales coast, his verbal skills definitely outweigh his wrestling ability. It's time for British Wrestling's sharpshooter, your host, Stu Palmer.
Warm welcome to episode 22 of Stu's Wrestling Podcast. Today's guest has done a lot in the business of wrestling in the UK. His name is Johnnie Brannigan. He's the owner of Grand Pro Wrestling. Johnny's trained people, he's wrestled himself, and obviously promotes shows. It was a pleasure to get Johnny on. We talk about the Wild West days of the business 20 years ago when he got his start, and we've covered a lot of topics in this one, so let's get right to it. Episode 22 with Grand Pro Wrestling, GPW's Johnnie Brannigan. Enjoy. A warm welcome to my guest this afternoon. At this time, I have the founder of Grand Pro Wrestling, aka GPW, Johnnie Brannigan. How's it going, Johnny?
Currently, mate, I am living the lockdown dream as the world goes crazy. I'll have to just correct you on that introduction, though. I'm not the founder of GPW. Someone else did that. I've just run it for the majority of the time it's been around, that's all.
Right, okay. I assumed you were the founder, that's fine. First question, I always ask this pretty much 9 times out of 10 when I have a guest on. When did you begin watching wrestling, Johnny?
I can't remember ever watching anything else on television. So probably my earliest memory of tuning into the television was watching wrestling, watching the WWF. I honestly couldn't tell you anything else that I watched before that. So probably, 4, 5, something like that. What
year was that?
I was born in 1982, so that'd be about 1986, 1987. So peak era of all the golden boys like Macho Man, Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan, all favourites at the time.
A little bit earlier than me, that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool. That's cool to hear that you were watching. It was like when it exploded when you were watching it.
Yeah, class, absolutely class. I did remember watching some. My parents taking me to watch some old British stuff with Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks and stuff. I do remember going to some local show when I was really young there as well. But it wasn't what captivated me. It was the characters, the colour, and everything from the Americans, really.
Which wrestlers did you gravitate to? Obviously, you've listed a few that you watched there in the late 80s, but just if you could, tell the listeners who you gravitated to, who floated your boat, character-wise, the way they wrestled, what they were wearing, maybe, just general about who you loved watching as a kid.
Probably no surprise to anyone else that grew up watching in that era. It was the same sort of headline guys. It was Hogan, Warrior, Savage, Bret Hart, and then a bit later on, absolutely loved Razor Ramon. And then coming up to a bit more modern day, huge fan of Triple H. Always have loved Triple H. And Shawn Michaels, obviously, probably my favourite wrestler. Shawn Michaels, closely followed by Triple H and closely followed by Ric Flair. So yeah, gives you a bit of an idea. Probably no one that's too surprising there. If anyone who's been a fan of wrestling during that period of time, probably just the main guys, and The Rock and Stone Cold are obviously in there, but those lot are my favourites, really. Any
match types that you loved? And I'll ask about events after that. But yeah, any match types which you gravitated to as well?
I liked any storyline that had a personal issue that you could sort of follow the storyline going on. So anything that ended up with like a gimmick match, really. So, but I absolutely loved like casket matches. I've always been a fan when I was younger of casket matches because I've always thought they were real. Cage matches, the big blue cage. Fan of that, but anything really with a personal issue or a storyline, I've always and still remain a fan of to this day.
Which events then, Johnny, stuck out for you as a kid growing up?
WrestleManias, SummerSlams. Used to watch them all. Used to either go around to a friend's house or get them on the pay-per-view at home. I always absolutely love the Survivor Series event because you used to get these random people all teaming up. I was really a big fan of seeing who was going to be the last person to survive. King of the Ring, used to love them as well. because always, even when I was younger, I realised it was used to elevate sort of younger people and people that weren't perhaps in the main event at the time. And I loved seeing people come through the roster. But yeah, all the big ones really. But there's not one particular one that stands out. I've only ever attended one WrestleMania. That was WrestleMania 20. So I suppose if I was going to pick one, I'd pick that one. That was in New York. It was there when I was like in my early 20s. Had a really good time with a friend of mine, and that was a bit. It was probably remembered for all the wrong reasons with Stone Cold referee in the Brock Lesnar and Goldberg match, and then you had the triple threat with Benoit winning the title at the end. So I'd probably say, if I'm going to say one event, maybe WrestleMania 20.
Cool, man. Cool. It was very, very good. It's very, very good. Great event. Just a shame, obviously, no Benoit, no Eddie now, but it was synonymous for them two, wasn't it? And then, like you say, on the bad side, it was well known for Goldberg and Lesnar, and Austin being the best thing about the match.
What a weird atmosphere. Yeah, it was really strange. But I remember going into that event, and we'd spent ages making signs for Christian. Me and my friend were big fans of Christian, so we were rooting for him on that event, but we weren't that interested, and I've never been interested, and I'm still not interested now in anything that Goldberg does. So I kind of zoned out as most of the crowd did for his match.
Cool. You got to a WrestleMania as well, Johnny.
Yeah, got to do it once. I think I did it before. All the commercialised Hall of Fame stuff, so we didn't get to go to the Hall of Fame, and I'm glad we didn't, because in my opinion the Hall of Fame has been a bit bastardised with the letting the fans in and stuff like that, and the chanting. I think it should be behind closed doors event. So we went the year before they started selling tickets to that, and it was in Madison Square Garden, so a bit of an iconic venue. Yeah, it was a good event. I wouldn't do it again, but it was good when I did it.
That's cool, man. It's cool. I've been numerous times myself. I take your point. It's a valid point. I've obviously been to the Hall of Fames and that. I take your point. Even though I enjoyed going to them personally, yeah, I'm with you on the heckling and the stuff that goes on. It's a good point of view, that, mate.
I've hated it for the longest time since since the wrestling fans started getting involved. I can understand why people want to go and why people want to be there, but give the guys the moment in the sun. Just don't get on the backs and start heckling. It ruins it.
Right, Johnny, I'm going to segue now into how the origins of your career. So when did your wrestling career begin? Your training, basically, your start in the business personally.
A long time ago now, bloody hell, 20 years ago, I started training. It was, internet was in its infancy, and I was at uni at the time. I just finished school, and I was at uni, and I had a part-time job working I'm from Blackpool, and I was working at the Pleasure Beach, if listeners know where that is. In part of Pleasure Beach, they had a interactive haunted horror house, which was called the Passage del Terror. I think they're a chain across the world. And I used to spend my part-time hours dressing up as an array of different monsters and ghouls, scaring the living shit out of the general public. And I used to, before I ever started even wrestling training, I used to be picked to speak to the audience to get them wound up and scared of what they might encounter in this hallway. So I used to, unbeknownst to me, practice my promos there at the time on people. And I'd always wanted to get involved with wrestling, but I just didn't really know anywhere to get into it. And then, lo and behold, there was another lad there who used to wrestle, and I use the term loosely, in the room above, in the Paradise Rooms, where they still hold some wrestling events there now. And he used to do the tribute wrestling stuff. So he used to wrestle, used to come down from the room upstairs down to the passage and tell people that he just finished wrestling Mankind. And obviously those who were wise to it realised that Mankind wasn't going to spend his Tuesday afternoon in Blackpool wrestling this lad that works at the passage. But he was quite hard to talk to, and eventually I managed to get to speak to him, and he heard me cutting these promos, and he said, "You know what? I'll give you a name of a guy who does some training." and off I went. I went and started training. Soon after that, there was just me in the class, and being trained by this guy. I had a bit of an amateur background, but he taught the basics really well. But after that, at the time I thought it was great, but looking back on it, it was probably dreadful. Used to train in a kickboxing ring that was in a gym that used to get broken into on a regular basis. So this first part of the session was sweeping broken glass out of the ring and hoping that got it all out before you started taking flat back bumps. And I was training for about 3 months or so before I got a call to go on my first show. So I wasn't training very long, but it wasn't the most professional environment at all.
That was going to be my next question, your first match. So yeah, if you can just maybe give a little bit about the first match, your memories of it.
Yeah, I've got a really vivid memory about the first match, and it's a hilarious story, and it's quite unbelievable. So I'll strap myself in for this one, right? Whilst I was training, I used to get told by the trainer that more often than not, his students would debut for a guy called Robbie Michaels. And Robbie Michaels was actually a really good wrestler. He was short in stature, but he had long black hair. He wore like cool black leather pants and could move. I remember thinking when I saw video footage, like proper VHS footage, I thought, oh, this guy looked cool. The guy wasn't cool. The guy's actually dead now. Robbie Michaels is dead, so I don't want to speak too ill of the dead, but I will do probably in this story. And I didn't know when. I didn't get told when I was going to debut. I didn't get told a date, or I didn't get told I was training towards a certain period of time. I got a call when I was at uni, and it was my trainer Darren, and he said, "Johnny, can you get to Runcorn for this evening?" And I didn't drive at the time, and I was like, "Yeah, I can. Why?" He says, "Well, you're going to debut for Robbie tonight." I was like, "Oh, great, right. Well, I'm in Preston at the moment. I need to go back home, get my kit, get myself to Runcorn. What time do I need to be there?" So if you get there for no later than 6, the show starts at 7. Right, okay, this is the Thursday night. So I know modern day 2020, you'll see a lot of shows happening on Tuesday nights, Thursday nights. This is going back to September 2000. There was no shows on a Thursday night. There was barely any weekend shows. The scene was very, very, very quiet. But I didn't think anything of it. I managed to get myself to Runcorn for later that evening. Got there before the time he said, and there was already a massive queue outside his venue. I can't remember what the venue was. There was a huge queue of people waiting to get in. And I got there and all the wrestlers were backstage. One of the wrestlers that's still around today, Blondie Barrett, who teams with Keith Myatt. He was on the show, and he seemed to be sort of in cahoots with Robbie Michaels. Seemed to know him pretty well. And no one was very friendly to me whilst I was backstage. No one came over and spoke to me. And I didn't really know what I was doing or who I was wrestling or if this was supposed to be, how things were done. I really hadn't a clue. Until Darren appeared and he told me that I was wrestling Doink the Clown that night. And I said, "Doink the Clown from WWF?" He went, "Yeah, of course." So I went away and I rang my mum and I said, "You never guess what, I'm in Runcorn, I'm about to debut wrestling, and I'm wrestling Doink off the telly, the guy that used to fight Bret Hart." And I was like, "Oh, that's great." And I didn't really think too much of it. I thought, well, Doink's probably not around doing much at the moment, so they probably managed to bring him over. And I couldn't find Doink backstage at all. Wasn't there. I was thinking, any minute he'll walk through the door, and time ticked by, and Doink never arrived. And then this huge fat mess of a chap came over to me and introduced himself as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in The Rock's little briefs. I thought, oh no, where the hell am I? I'm at a tribute show. I had no idea I was at a tribute show. I was going to debut on a tribute show. Now, I'd planned my character that I wanted to do for probably 3 or 4 years prior to even starting in wrestling training. So the last thing I wanted to do was to go out there and portray someone else's character. But the ring announcer came over to me, and because I wore a leather jacket to the ring, he said, "You look like Raven. You could be Raven tonight." I went, "No way. No way. No way am I being a Raven. My wrestling name is Heresy." And he said, "Hershey?" I went, No, it's Heresy. I've never heard of that name before. I was like, no, you won't have done, because it's my debut tonight. He says, no, well, you can be Raven because no one will know you. I was like, no, mate, no. And I was getting in the right panic, and I was like, no way. And the show was supposed to start at 7, it was now 8 o'clock, and there was about 400 people on a Thursday night in the year 2000 who had come to watch this tribute show, which is a hell of a lot of people. And they still hadn't been let in. So they let the crowd in about 2 hours after doors had opened, about 9 o'clock. And I was on second to last. Now, there was something going on backstage. I didn't know what was going on. There was something going on backstage. People were running around, counting money and stressing by what I could see. And the 2 lads that had brought the ring had been brought in from, I'm pretty sure it was All-Star. I think Brian had sent them. And Robbie, the promoter, had said, well, the lads that are bringing the ring, why don't you do the main event? Oh, the lad said, oh, it's great, brilliant, thanks very much, we'll do the main event. Which characters from the WWF do you want us to play? No, you can just be yourselves. Oh, that's great, oh yeah, cheers, Robbie, yeah, I'll do that. So I'm like, oh my God, I thought I got the ring announcer back on side to announce me as Raven, and to announce me as Heresy, sorry. And I'm waiting backstage, and my music hits, which was a relief. And then I hear the ring announcer say, from the Bowery. Oh my God. So I've still not seen my opponent at this point, which turned out to be Blondie Barrett, who'd come back from wrestling the 20-stone Rock, out of shape Rock, to get changed into Doink's gear, was putting Doink's makeup on as I was making my way to the ring. And now got to wrestle this old guy who'd already wrestled once, who's now dressing up as Doink. And I'm thinking, I've got to take the finish. As I was told to go to the ring, I was told to take the finish as a custard pie to the face. I'm like, this is not how I wanted my debut to go. So, getting there, did the business with Blondie Barrett as Doink. It was alright, actually. It was alright. I did all the Raven stuff, which is really, really embarrassing. Well, I did the Raven taunt, at least, so people could sort of make the connection. And I get backstage, and this is where things go really, really, really weird. So I get backstage, and everyone's panicking, and Blondie Barrett's going, do it now, Robbie, do it now. And the 2 lads that had brought the ring had made their entrances, and they were wrestling in the main event. We were all backstage, and they said, should we do it? He said, do it now. So they said, come on, Johnny, let's go. And everyone, the whole entire roster, which I say the entire roster, there wasn't that many, it was probably about 12 people, piled out the fire exit, got into a Nissan Micra, and headed down the road, leaving the 2 lads that had brought the ring to fight their main event. Basically, the promoter was getting out of paying them.
Oh my days!
What a baptism of fire that was! It's only since doing other shows that you realise that was the Wild West.
Yeah.
But that happened. It was the whole thing was so weird. From getting the call on a random Thursday when I was just heading into a lecture at uni, to scrambling my way to get there to find out I was wrestling Doink. It wasn't Doink, it was Blondie Barrett. It wrestled 2 minutes before.
Yeah.
It was weird, just weird. But yeah, so needless to say, I can remember that day very, very well.
So how the memory you've got there as well, everything that you went into about it,
Yeah. Well, it was such a weird thing to have happened, and it's something I enjoy telling. So yeah, I hope the listeners stayed with me on that and enjoyed it.
Where did you progress to from there, from that first time then?
So from there, I wrestled for a local company called Northwest Professional Alliance and PWA, which were a really small rinky-dink outfit that used to do a lot of shows in working men's clubs. There was a couple of other shows that I did as well for people, and thankfully never wrestled as Raven again, although there was similar comparisons drawn to me and Raven throughout most of my early career, which was pretty annoying, but it happened. And so mainly around the Northwest, and then broke out doing some stuff for a company down in Newcastle, WrestleZone Wrestling, WZW. So it went on from there, but it was all very different back in those days. It was not very professional. My experience with the NPWA was quite infamous because I was booked in a main event match, in a ladder match, which was advertised heavily, which there's a feud that we've been building up heavily. And this just gives you an idea of the guy that run the promotion. I think he was quite jealous of me, which sounds arrogant, but you'd have to have been there to really appreciate what I'm saying. I was good. I was really good. The best on the roster, and I think the promoter, who was also wrestling, was a bit jealous of it, and I had better ideas about everything, and I think he screwed me over on purpose, because it got to our match, the ladder match, the main event that we planned, and then he told me that he'd forgotten the ladder just as we were about to go out and make our entrance. So I refused to go out and make my entrance and stormed out, which was quite hot. I was quite hot-headed when I was younger, but I stormed out and never wrestled there again. But let's give you an idea of the kind of professionalism that was around in wrestling then. It was really bad.
So where it is now, Johnny, obviously I'm from a fan perspective, but obviously you see how things are run, especially in the UK. Surely that doesn't happen now, what you're saying about happened many years ago.
Hope not. I really hope not, because there's one group of people that suffer when things like that happen, and that's the fans, and that's not fair.
Johnny, I got it wrong earlier when I said you were the founder of GPW, Grand Pro Wrestling, but how did you get involved with GPW?
GPW, so we go back to the MPWA.
Yeah.
I left MPWA after this ladder match debacle, and there was a wrestler who's also died called Lee Middleman Butler, who we're all pretty aware of because he was from a local area near me, and he was quite a big guy, could move for his size, and had seemingly been around wrestling for quite a while, and he got wind of MPWA, and I think a few wrestlers that approached him to help him be coached at the MPWA school. He got involved with MPWA, realised it was terrible, and decided to create a promotion of his own and steal a lot of the MPWA talent, because there was quite a lot of talent there. Joey Hayes was there, Damon Lee was there at the time, so there was quite a lot of fledgling talent that were there, and Lee did have a good idea of a bit more than just the basics that were being taught at MPWA. It did help bring a lot of those lads on, especially me, and so that's what happened. I stayed in touch with Lee because I knew him, and he invited me over to GPW when he got things up and running, which was early 2003. So I'd been wrestling elsewhere. I started in 2000. I wrestled for probably about 2 years around the Northwest, and then I branched out, going a bit further afield, and I've stayed busy for about a year. And then Lee started GPW, and obviously I was in touch with him, so I came back straight away. And then it started off as training schools, really, really, really ahead of its time when it kicked off. But Lee had a lot of faults. I won't go into them too much here, but because Lee was very helpful to a lot of people, but also made a lot of enemies. But he's not with us anymore, and I think he helped more people that are still around now than he hurt. But Lee couldn't cope with running the business, and just disappeared one day, just vanished. He vanished into thin air. I know he went over and spent a bit of time training at Irish Whip. And I think Seamus might have been in his class at the time. He was good. Lee was a good coach, but he never returned to GPW. So eventually, after it being passed through a few hands, I said, "Let me have it, and I'll take over." So I took over from 2005, almost to the day that we're speaking today, 15 years ago, and I've been in charge of it ever since. So Lee founded it, but I've been in charge of it for 15 years, and the company's been around 17 years, so I might as well have founded it, I suppose.
I'll keep it in that I called you the founder at the start as well.
Okay.
Just, it does, do you know what? I'll make mistakes as I'm going along, so yeah, man. But fair play, mate, the length of time you've been doing it, that's testament, you know. I know obviously it was a lot harder back then as well for you.
Yeah. There have been some really tough shows, some really tough months, some really tough years. It was so different back in the day, and it's not that today's any easier. It comes with its own challenges and different stuff, but I think I just love it. I just really, really enjoy it. I'm quite stubborn, with wrestling when it comes to it. So it keeps me going. I don't want to. I was determined never to just be a flash in the pan with running the promotion. I think I've proven that after all this time.
When did you begin as booker?
Well, it depends who you ask that question, because if you ask me, I'd say 2005. But I think a lot of people would say that I was trying to book the territory long before that, and that's probably why the guy at MPBA forgot that ladder, because I was telling him how to book his promotion back in the day. I've always had my own ideas for stuff, and I've always been fairly vocal about them. So it's probably just easier that I ended up running my own promotion anyway, because then I could just run my own ideas as they were. So, but the GPW stuff I've been booking that since 2005.
Oh, long time, man. Long time.
Yeah, and I don't think in that time I try really hard not to repeat any storylines, or try not to present a similar storyline. Even though I know there's only a handful of fans that are actually stayed with us for that amount of time, but just for my own sanity, I try to keep things fresh.
I don't want you to give the game away, but my next question is, which styles and techniques do you apply to the booking of shows? Your ethos with booking, if you will. So
it's always got to try and keep the goal in mind, and the goal with my shows is characters, storylines, and what result in matches that matter and that people want to see. So we get too far away from what wrestling is. Wrestling is a personal issue between two people or more, if it's a tag team or whatever, and then they have to settle that. They have to settle those differences inside a squared circle, and how those issues then evolve into other things. My ethos has always been characters, stories, and matches that matter. But that's how I approach everything, really.
Which wrestlers have passed through GPW in terms, maybe established guys? Like maybe not just UK based, but like world talents.
We've had a lot. So it's not something that we do so much anymore. I don't suppose we've had a lot, actually. I'll retract that statement, because for the time we've been running, we've only had a handful, and that's because I like to keep things domestic, really. But some current people will know: Cesaro, Chris Hero, Cassius Ohno. We had Jack Gallagher's wrestled for us for ages before he went over to the States. TJ Wilson wrestled for us. Some of these appearances were just one-off ones, but they were at the start of their career when no one knew who TJ Wilson was or Cesaro was. But we don't. There's probably not too many like main event stars that you'd know, because, like I say, I like to keep things domestic, really, and I will bring in international talent. It's not that I won't do. I will do, but it has to be under the right circumstances.
What makes you most proud of GPW?
I think the tenure. I'm really proud of the tenure, because, like I was saying, in those 15 years, it hasn't been easy. It's still not easy now. We've got all this coronavirus stuff going on. It's playing absolutely havoc with my booking sheet. And I think the tenure is, you have to be quite tenacious to put up with some of the stuff that goes on. And the end product, the end product is class. What we put in the ring in front of the audience is really, really good. It's underrated. I don't mind it being underrated, really, but it is underrated. And the stars that we've produced as a result of that, I think you'll find that if you ask most of the guys that have been involved, if not all of the guys that have been involved in storylines with us, that they have progressed their own characters and their own careers through GPW. I just had a message off Zach Gibson just about 2 days ago saying, I'm in Florida now, and I would not be here if it wasn't for what I did at GPW. And it was just super nice of him to say. But he's right, and that's the same thing goes for a lot of other people. And we like to think that we challenge people to come outside their comfort zone a little bit and try something on a little bit different that they might not have done before. So all of that, I'm really proud of all of that.
What advice would you give to upstart companies? Obviously, at the moment, with the way things are, people aren't able to do shows, are they? But obviously, going forward, when it all calms down, we're back to the norm. advice to upstart companies, just because you see, as a fan, not just as an owner and doing it as a business, there's a lot that have folded. What's your advice, Johnny, to getting it?
If you're thinking of starting a promotion up in the Northwest, don't.
Right, okay.
the scene is. I've never known any more promotions in one area as it is. It's kind of ridiculous. And I know a lot of people and won't have the same opinion as me. And they're like, oh, the more the merrier and all that. No, not the more the fucking merrier. This is, it's everyone's livelihood and business, and you don't see a McDonald's in every corner, and there's a reason for that. So yes, my first advice is don't start in the Northwest. It's already really overcrowded.
Yeah.
Second thing would be to do what I said, and to remember what wrestling is about. It's about two people having a personal issue, and to make wins matter, to make losses matter, and to make matches have consequences. Think about things logically. I hate promotions that set up and then just disappear as well. It really grinds my gears. I'd rather see a well thought out business plan of how they're going to make it work, how they're going to tell the stories, and what part of the roster they're going to bring in. There's a lot of guys, especially in the Northwest, that are the same people on the same shows. It's just the same rosters everywhere else. So have a good long think about who you want on your shows, and how you're going to bring them in, and how you're going to progress those people through storylines that people care about.
It's so heavily saturated, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And I know it's not like that in some of the other areas in the UK, because I've spoken to guys that live there and stuff. They're like, how many promotions? I was like, I know, it is absolutely ridiculous. And it's just taking food off other people's plate. And it doesn't help at all that that people aren't changing the rosters up. The rosters are just the same. It's the same guys. There's a couple of ones out there that try. But I think GPW are quite lucky because we've got a good few people that wrestle just exclusively for us, and just our guys, which helps really. So, but yeah, the scene is oversaturated, in my opinion.
Just going on to current product, like obviously WWE, AEW, do you get time to watch the product, or because you're so heavily invested in it in your company? The question is, do you get a chance to watch stuff on TV?
I tape it all. I've got the network, and I watch that quite a lot. I tend to sort of gravitate to the older stuff, the 80s stuff, more than anything. Or I like quite a lot watching documentaries. I do have AEW that I watch every now and again, but only when I've got the time, because I've got quite a busy personal life away from wrestling. I've not really got all the way through it yet, but I have enjoyed what I've seen of NWA Power. I think that's a really old school feel to it that I like. So I do watch WWE. I watch WrestleMania whenever that comes out. I watch that, and I watch some of the big events, but I don't watch Raw or SmackDown. If I'm going to watch any sort of episodic TV, it'll be Power or AEW.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair enough. What are your thoughts on them running WrestleMania, and obviously running it over two nights? What are your thoughts?
At first I thought that's odd, but then I thought, nah, actually I really like that. I really like the stance that Vince has had, and thought, oh, coronavirus is stopping live events, is it? Not ours. I really like that. And he's not a stupid man, is he, Vince? He's going to get some good publicity out of this. I don't know if you've seen the T-shirts that have come out saying WrestleMania 36. I wasn't there. I thought, genius.
It was well played, yeah.
He's going to get some good press out of it, and people are going to talk about this WrestleMania for the next 36 years. They'll talk about the WrestleMania there was no fans. So it's a great talking point, and I think, yeah, all power to him. And it makes sense, because I don't think they're doing the Hall of Fame, are they? So it makes sense doing it over the 2 nights. So yeah, go for it.
It's going to be odd, but yeah, like you say, it's almost like giving the middle finger in it to everything else. Like, yeah, we'll carry on. Also with AEW, still running Dynamite. It's commendable, and I like the way they did it this week, with the heels on one side of the arena and then the faces on the other for a bit of atmosphere.
Right, I've not seen that, but yeah, it sounds. I'll check that out now. We're in a national lockdown, but yeah, I'll check that out. But yeah, every credit to people that are able to continue doing it, putting shows on, however virtually or however they do it. Every credit, it's important.
Right, Johnny, if you could plug your social media, please, for the listeners, just so they can get to you, they can see what you're doing online and stuff like that. If you'd like to.
Of course, I'm if you're looking to find Johnnie Brannigan, I'm the world's worst follow because I don't ever really post anything on social media. So you're better off following anything Grand Pro. So Instagram's Grand Pro, Twitter's Grand Pro. Facebook's Grand Pro Wrestling. So head over there. Our next show is scheduled for the May 15th in Wigan, Hindley. But at the moment in time, we are going ahead with that show. But it may change as things change in the world. So hopefully you'll catch us at some point before the end of 2020.
Thanks very much for coming on today, Johnny.
Cheers, Stu.
Absolute pleasure. It was cool to hear about the early days in your career. I really have enjoyed the depth that you went into. It's just your memory and remembering everything that was going on. It's really, really cool that you can recount everything that happened.
Yeah, cheers, mate. No, I enjoyed it.
Right, Johnnie Brannigan of Grand Pro Wrestling, GPW, thank you very much for coming on.
You're welcome.
Take care, pal. Big thank you to 3210s for their track Sonar in the intro and the outro of today's show. Cheers, boys, for letting me use it. Many thanks to Mike Angus for the show intro as usual, an absolute stellar job, and to my editor. Without Chris and Mike doing what they do, this show would not be happening. So yeah, thanks for your support as well, lads. It's top, it's brilliant, love it.